ask you about Ray Bradbury.
Yeah.
Um, and you guys worked on the George R. Martin.
Well, I worked with Bradbury on a book called his last book, his last
Okay.
published book. It was called The Nefertiti Tut Express,
Okay.
and I also worked with George R. R. Martin. Was there a question in specifically you wanted to
Yeah,
ask,
like
Brad?
that. All these people, him specifically, I was asking, but how did you develop that relationship to work with these guys? And how was it? And was there like an exchange of knowledge and wisdom and a large background, a body of work that you guys, that you it brought you to like another level as an artist or a
You know,
creative?
I'm really glad you bring this up
Yeah.
because I'm very proud of the fact that I have worked with some amazing authors, and
Mm-hmm.
not only worked on their stuff, but actually had back and forth with them in regard to their material. Not only Bradbury and Martin, but also Michael Chabon. And I also like to include somebody who gets left out of the equation a lot, but I thought was terrific writer, was Archie Goodwin. And all these guys, I did have some great conversations with them. They were so gracious, and at times I would, especially with Bradbury, I barely knew. I was such a fan of his that I at times I just let him speak. I still have a message from him on my answering machine, which I've never been able to erase, and I'm trying to figure out how to preserve it because there's just it's a simple button. If I hit it, it'll erase it. But it's from about 3 or 4 years ago, and he had misplaced some sketches I had sent him, and he asked me if I could resend them. And he was telling me how much he liked what I was doing. I listened to this a lot. He liked the work. He must have said please and thank you 5 times in the minute he spoke on the phone here.
Wow.
But I love the way he signed off. He said, so when you get a chance, please call me back. This is Ray Bradbury. Call me back and we'll talk about the future.
Wow.
And for to hear someone like that, who was in his 90s at the time, say, let's talk about the future. It just opens up so many vistas that your mind boggles at the subjects you could be covering with a man like that. And I was needless to say, I called him back immediately, and we had a great conversation. But the idea now, when I listen to that message, and I hear him say, "So call me back, and we'll talk about the future." I like to think it wasn't necessarily our working together, excuse me,
Mhm.
but the future in general,
Right.
which is even more magnificent that a man of his age
Wow.
was still that vital. It's choking me up just talking about it. Excuse me. Actually, I have a little bit of a cold, so you're lucky we're talking through Skype here.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's amazing.
um,
That's
but but
amazing.
but all those guys, even of course, I've worked on Jules Verne material. I've worked on Howard. I've worked with a lot of dead authors, and it's one thing to do work uh, on classical books and work with classical literary figures, but to be actually working with authors here and now, contemporary authors, is a whole different dynamic. Uh, I had to ask George R. R. Martin. He's had so many fantastic illustrators do wonderful fantasy stuff for him, but yet his stories are so illustrative.
Mm.
And I had to ask him. I said, it sounds like I'm shooting myself in the foot here,
Mhm.
but why would you want anyone to illustrate your material? It's so wonderful, and the reader has the theater of the mind to build these wonderful arenas.
Mhm.
Why bother having anybody crystallize it, a third person crystallize it? And I loved his reply. He just said, well, I like to see what artists do with my material, which, you know, is a short and sweet answer. And of course, so many of us have benefited from that magnanimous attitude of his. In the case of Chabon, when I was working with Michael Chabon on a book, there was a character. I was trying to come up with of an image for this guy, and it occurred to me that the character reminded me of an obscure character actor from the 40s by the name of Akim Tamaroff. And nobody, there's probably one out of 100,000 people who know who Akim Tamaroff is, but you know, I thought this guy reminds me of Akim Tamaroff. And I had Chabon on the phone one day, and we were talking about the book. And I said, oh, by the way, this character, Hanukkah, I said, how do you visualize this guy? And he paused a moment. He's thinking, I don't know. I kind of see him looking like Akim Tamaroff. And I thought, whoa, are we on the same page here? To him to pull out a name like that was great in terms of us working together, because I just felt this bond there, and it gave me a lot of confidence to continue on what I was doing with Michael.
I gotta ask, for where you are right now,
Yeah.
what's the legacy as a creative that you think about leaving behind or desire to leave behind?
Wow.
Because I have I mean, conversations with so many different types of creative people. I mean, teenagers, 20s, 30s, all the way up. And a lot of people, every once in a while, when it's really quiet and they're just reflecting on where they're at and what's the next step and what I want to work and what I want to do, it's, you know, what do I want to leave behind? You know? Did you ever think about that yourself? And if you have, what's the answer for you?
I guess the short answer for that is I've been inspired by so many wonderful illustrators, artists, writers that have spurred me on to do the kind of work I do. And I still look at all this work, and I'm eternally inspired by it. I'd like to hope that, you know, when I'm in the old illustrator's home, maybe if I'm inspiring anybody in any way, shape, or form, the way those who came before me inspired me, then I would I'd take that as a great sense of gratification and success. You know, that would be great.
Yeah. Well, one thing I really enjoy, besides your creativity, is that when we met at Comic-Con, you're very humble. You can see you're very focused and specific. You can see it in your work. You're very focused and specific. You know, like a laser. You could tell. You could tell with your choices of words, your choices of you know, your position. I mean, for instance, I'm gonna just put up one of the works right now. I'll show you what I'm showing to the audience. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see that when you were figuring it out, you were very specific, you know, and it's interesting to see from A to B what you decided on. What did you leave out? The lady's face was to the side, but then you said, no, I really want to get this angle, but just enough. I really want to see her face, but I still want it to be just enough that I could get the fear of this beast that this guy is fighting. And I think it's amazing. I think I love the fact that you're so purposeful with what you're doing, and the fact that you're in love with what you're doing, I think is amazing.
Go on, tell me more about myself.
I think it's amazing.
Honestly, I appreciate all those kind words. I I could think of any number of contemporary guys or
But this is the pause. There's tons of guys that might be purposeful or might show a lot of talent, but at the
Mhm.
same time, you're a cool guy, and everybody's not a cool guy.
Oh yeah, I'll have to have my daughters listen to this.
And I thank Dean so much for making this happen. Dean is amazing.
Even though
Um,
it's too bad we couldn't have him join us here.
Yep. You
I
know
mean,
what? But you know what? It would be cool because I know you have a huge book coming out that we got to see some clips on that nobody else got to see.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
So maybe we could have you come on again.
Well, if there's any interest in it, I'd be happy to come back.
That will be amazing. And Eclecticka would love to have you. And,
Well, I love to be had.
And this is in like I said, technically, Dean had some stuff, and we would love to get you back, and I'm sure he would love to have you back too.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very
Cool.
much. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.